Hi and welcome. I'm AnewZ and you are watching Context. The Israeli-Iranian conflict is in its 7th day. There's still no word out of Washington whether the U.S. will join Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump said nobody knows what he will do. Trump also rejected Russia's repeated proposal to mediate a ceasefire, telling his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to go mediate his own war. Following the latest missile fire exchange, Israeli defense minister said Iran's supreme leader should no longer exist after a hospital in southern Israel was hit during an Iranian missile attack. Iran claims the intended target was a military site nearby. Israel in turn hit the Natanz nuclear facility and the Arak heavy water reactor. In more developments, Iranian foreign minister says he will head to Geneva to attend tomorrow's talks on his country's nuclear program with counterparts from France, Germany and Britain, and the EU's top diplomat. On the latest surrounding the conflict, we're talking to Ivani Vassoler, professor and coordinator of international studies at the State University of New York, and political analyst Tom Gross, coming to us from Tel Aviv. Welcome both. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, CBS and the Wall Street Journal are reporting that Trump has approved plans to attack Iran but hasn't made a final decision. Just a short while ago, Trump came out saying that these publications do not know what he is going to do. Ivani, this is obviously a very fast developing situation, but would you say there's any room for some urgent diplomacy right now?
It seems difficult at this moment, considering the intensity of the attacks. The war now between Israel and Iran seems to be escalating. Diplomacy, it is difficult, and we are here, as the world is, in the expectation of or about the decision still to be made by United States. As you mentioned at the very beginning in your introduction, yesterday President Trump says that nobody knows what he is going to do. What has been interpreted as, in fact, he does not know what he is going to do. And this is not because of ignorance or because he has no knowledge. It is because it's an incredibly difficult decision to make. Certainly, he is considering the consequences of his decision, the consequences of his decision for the country, United States, including the politics of United States. At this point, even people that are in the so-called his followers in the Make America Great Again movement, some of them are against any type of participation of United States in this conflict. But yesterday too, President Trump stated that, it's too late for talks, which again, is being interpreted as there is no room for diplomacy.
We're now going to show some footage of the Fordow nuclear site as well. And as we do, Tom, what's your sense of the situation? Do you believe the U.S. plans have to do with the Fordow site? As it's widely believed, Israel cannot hit the deep underground facility that we can see right now on the screen without U.S.'s 13.6-ton heavy bunker buster bomb that can be deployed again only by a U.S. B-2 stealth bomber that we are also seeing right now on the screen.
Yes, so there are three main nuclear sites in Iran. Israel has been hitting two of them, but this one, Fordow, is buried underneath a mountain. It's not just a bit under the mountain, it's very under the mountain. And no other military in the world, other than the United States, has a plane which can carry a bomb which is heavy enough to attempt to penetrate the nuclear site inside the mountain. And even with the American bomb, apparently they may have to drop it more than once because it's so well fortified in the mountain in Fordo. And in fact, one of the reasons that everybody, including myself, is sure that this is a nuclear weapons program by Iran, not a civil nuclear energy program, is why on earth would any country building a civil nuclear energy program, as Iran claims, spend billions and billions of dollars building the most fortified underground facility like that hardly any weapon in the world could touch. Now, we discussed before whether Trump has made up his mind or not. It's true that he hasn't made up his mind, but I think he's made up his mind that he doesn't want Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. So what he wants, clearly, is for the Ayatollah and the Iranian authorities to come back to the negotiation table and to agree to a complete dismantlement of their nuclear program, not some time-wasting negotiations of the kind we've seen on and off for really 20 years. The only thing that will be a deal from Trump's point of view is to once and for all have enriched uranium removed from Iranian territory. If there's such a deal on the table, I don't believe America will deploy military force against Fordo. But short of that, I think they will, the US. I think Trump has decided to act because it's not a United States national interest or anybody's really in the whole world's international interest to let Iran go nuclear and spark off a nuclear arms race in a very volatile area of the world, the Middle East. So the only military that can penetrate Fordo from the air is the United States. There has been talk of some kind of ground operation by Israel or someone else, but I think short of a full-scale invasion, that would be almost impossible. It can only be either hit from the air by this bomber, or the Iranian government can voluntarily decide to dismantle Fordo as part of some agreement with the United States, but I'm very doubtful the Iranian government will agree, and therefore I think we do have a big chance that America will hit Fordo, yes.
As we await the decision from Washington, Iran issued another warning to the U.S. To quote, at least stand by if they do not wish to stop Israel's aggression. Otherwise, the country's deputy foreign minister said they will defend themselves. Ivani, what is the general mood in the U.S.? Are there concerns being voiced over the possibility that joining Israeli strikes might provoke an Iranian retaliation on U.S. bases and personnel across the Middle East?
Sir, there are concerns. In the Congress of the United States, for example, at this moment, there is a joint resolution by a Republican representative and a Democrat representative. And the decision that they are taking together is to try to pass in the Congress a resolution essentially preventing the intervention of the United States, the direct intervention of the United States in this war, except if approved by the Congress. And the Congress, obviously, there are divisions there about what the United States should do. As well, there are divisions in the American society. The latest public opinion polls indicate that a majority, slight above 50%, they don't agree with the U.S. intervention. And we know that even within the most inner circle in the White House, there are those who are in favor, there are those who are against. But again, the decision is going to be made by the President of the United States, as the Secretary of Defense made very clear yesterday. Peter Hagg said that the decision is going to be made by President Donald Trump. One of his statements, if this is an indication, well, is a matter of interpretation. But he said that at least for 20 years, even before he was elected the president, he was convicted. He had total conviction that Iran should not have the nuclear bomb.
Back
And so
to his remarks
he
from yesterday. I'm sorry.
continues thinking about the same.
Back to his remarks from yesterday, Trump scoffed at Putin's proposal to help mediate a ceasefire, effectively telling him to look at his own yard. Russians then warned the U.S. not to get involved militarily. Tom, where does the Israeli-Iranian conflict and possible U.S. involvement leave Russia when it comes to its footing in the Middle East? Obviously, they've lost their longtime ally in Syria half a year ago.
Yes, that's correct. The loss of the Assad regime, dictatorship in Syria, is a major blow to Russian interests in the Middle East. I think that Putin is so bogged down in Ukraine that I do not think he will exert effort to come and rescue his Iranian allies. And, you know, they've also seen just how effective the Israeli Air Force is. You know, some commentators have noted that Israel, which now has complete control over the skies over Iran, which is a massive country, that Israel has succeeded in 3 days what Russia hasn't managed in 2.5 years. So I cannot imagine Russia really getting involved. In fact, they didn't provide the Iranians with I think it's the S-300s and S-400 missile defenses, which would have made it harder for Israel to hit various sites in Iran. I do not think, Putin can be saying what he wants, but I don't think he's a serious player. And I have to go further. I can't think of a single government in the world that really wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. And I think deep down, whatever anyone else is saying, they know that the only way to stop Iran getting nuclear weapons, this regime getting nuclear weapons, I should say, is military action. Everything else has been tried, sanctions, computer viruses, threats, this, that, and the other. And it is a determination of the regime in Tehran to get nuclear weapons because it's also about regime preservation. Today, no one would dream of attacking North Korea because the regime in North Korea has nuclear weapons. No, it's untouchable. And the Iranian regime know, too, that they will be untouchable. That's one of several reasons why they want nuclear weapons. And certainly for Israel, which is, at the forefront of the wrath of the regime in Iran, it is an existential threat. And that's why Israel's taking action. But I don't think any other country, even someone like President Macron in France or Putin or others calling for Israel to stand down or for peace talks or whatever, deep down, I do not believe anybody wants Iran to go nuclear. And just want to answer Ivani's point, yes, there's opposition in America against American involvement, but it very much depends what kind of involvement. No one wants, or very few people want, America to get dragged into another war in the Middle East or anywhere else. And they certainly don't want major American involvement. But if it's a one-time strike on Fordo, which will only last a lot of minutes, and it will be finished before anyone can criticize it, I don't think there'll be much criticism within the United States, nor do I think Iran is really in a strong position now because Israel has been bashing its ballistic missiles and missile launchers. I don't think Iran is in a strong position to hit American bases elsewhere in the region. So I think it's a bit of a paper threat from the regime there.
We've heard just today after this morning's missile fire exchanges, Israeli defense chief saying that Iran's supreme leader, quote, cannot be allowed to exist following the strike on a hospital. This is the same man who earlier threatened civilians in Tehran. He did walk that back, but he did make the threat. Ivani, could such statements, fiery rhetoric, escalate things further, especially given the status Ali Khamenei has not only in Iran, but in other Shiite factions and Iranian-backed groups across the region?
So certainly, as President Trump said yesterday, Iran and its leadership is in big trouble. So, and although obviously President Trump refused to answer questions about if the Ayatollah should be killed, he said that it could happen. So this situation is extremely complex, and I agree with the colleague in the panel that if it is just one strike coming from the United States to destroy the nuclear facilities, certainly Americans will accept this as a necessity. Yet the concern is that what is going to happen in Iran in the case of an attack, an American attack, and possibly the dismantle, the fall of the regime. This will be a very complicated situation that could require different type of intervention from United States. And this is, I think, the difficulty coming from President Trump to make a decision. But obviously, there are military equipment in the area. United States has in the area, I mean, around the Middle East, 2 aircraft carriers and with all kinds of military equipment. United States has several thousand troops spread in the bases in the Middle East. So the possibility of an attack is there. It's the decision that has not been made yet.
Tom, what are your thoughts on other groups and factions joining in if the U.S. indeed joins Israeli strikes? We've heard U.S.'s envoy for Syria today in Beirut discouraging Hezbollah from intervening, saying it would be a very bad decision.
Well, one of the reasons Israel did act now and is able to act now is the proxy militias that Iran set up around Israel, most notably Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, are greatly, greatly weakened from the last year and a half of war. So Hezbollah are hardly in a position to do very much on behalf of Iran, even if they wanted to. Likewise, Hamas is fighting a war for its own survival in Gaza. It's not in much of a position. That leaves the Houthis, the allied militia for Iran in Yemen, and various militia in Iraq. Now, the Houthis have already been firing lots of missiles at Israel. It's problematic, but, you know, they've got missile defense in Israel, and they've also got American missile defense to protect, for example, Saudi Arabia. In Iraq, I'm not an expert on Iraq, but I don't believe the militia in Iraq are so strong. Iran is in a much weaker position than it was than a couple of years ago. It really has very few allies and friends left. And even its militia, I can't see really helping it. So as Ivani or other guests said, I think the real questions and divisions in the United States would come afterwards, after the Iranian nuclear program has been dismantled. Israel may then stop its actions because Israeli aims are pretty much limited to removing the nuclear threat and also the ballistic missile threat. Of course, the vast majority of Israelis, as I think most people in the world, will prefer a better, more democratic government in Iran that will give rights to women and etc. But it's not Israel's place, and I don't think anyone in Israel thinks it is, to try and to participate in any way with some kind of change of government in Iran. I don't think the United States thinks it is either its place, but events can, you know, have a funny way of evolving themselves, and it is conceivable that America will somehow be dragged in to some kind of internal power struggle that emerges in Iran following the weakening of the regime once the nuclear weapons program has been removed or very badly damaged.
There is a glimmer of hope somewhere here that diplomacy might do the trick. Iranian foreign minister announced He's going tomorrow to Geneva to meet the French, British, and German foreign ministers, as well as the EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas. There are certain reports that the meeting is being coordinated with Washington. Ivani, do you see maybe some talks here that could lead to a ceasefire now that the vast majority of Iran's both nuclear and ballistic capacities has been diminished?
So the meeting in Geneva, of course, it was part of the news yesterday and today here in the United States. Even one of the news reports came with the possibility that United States could participate in the meetings in Europe, in Switzerland, but this has not been confirmed. It's naturally is valid that other countries want to come up with some type of solution, and obviously I also believe that everybody in the world would like to see a solution for the conflict, but based on what we can see at this point, the continuation of the attacks, I don't see how some type of negotiations or peace talks could evolve. We all remember that the talk yesterday was that the Iranian government should surrender, considering that the situation of the Iranian government in this conflict, the Iranian government is in disadvantage, lost or never had the capabilities to face this type of attacks from Israel. And obviously the government of Iran say that no, there is no surrender, there is no capitulation. And as was mentioned previously, it's difficult to think that Iran would agree with the total of or the destruction of this nuclear program.
And Tom, finally, I would like to hear your thoughts on the Geneva meeting as well.
Well, look, Trump said the only deal he'll agree to is one of what he calls complete surrender. And, you know, unlike, Barack Obama or some previous presidents who wanted to do everything to avoid conflict with Iran and to the point of appeasing Iran, I don't think that Trump wants to be the president that ultimately lets Iran go nuclear. Without bombing or removing or dismantling Fordo, the nuclear program is still intact. I think possibly after America's bombed Fordo, they will offer some ceasefire agreement, and possibly the Iranian government will agree to it to preserve itself before getting further damaged. But I cannot see, diplomacy, also I think it's like play acting. I'll say it again, I don't think any European government, the ones meeting the Iranian foreign minister in Geneva, really wants to allow an embittered, bitter, radical Islamic government in Iran to maintain its nuclear weapons program. And the time, for 20 years, the Iranian negotiators have been playing games and so on, and doing everything not to stop their nuclear program. So I think the diplomacy is because that's what diplomats do. I think it's just a bit of a charade, a bit of theater.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us and providing us with your insights and opinions.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That's all we had for you in this edition of Context. But do stay tuned to AnewZ.